a rather interesting and different face. Not quite a grille, very high up. It's an unusual design, but I like it. And I'd call it funky in a lot of ways. This is the Mahindra KUV100. The baby in the Mahindra range. It's a little A to B segment crossover SUV kind of little vehicle. And I know I say it in that way, but you'll get what I'm saying. It's got very neat headlight trim. You've got space for fog lights on certain models, on certain variants, because there's quite a big range of them, which is quite important. You come around, you've got the cladding to give the crossover effect. And look, those tiny little 14-inch wheels. You just don't see these things anymore, quite honestly. But nothing wrong with them. And they kind of fit the part quite nicely. And you come along the cladding under the doors as well, for example. And over here. Now this is a special edition, shall I call it, in the range, called the #Dare. Aimed very specifically at the young market to bring in the whole hashtag thing, etc., etc. You can see it's one of the cars that is the narrow and high, can I call it, body styling. So you keep that in mind. And you've got, of course, the door handle high up over there at the back of the door. The driver's seat is set for me, and pretty much not bad legroom at all in the back seat. I think it's pretty good, quite honestly, for a smallish car. And you've got the lap belt in the center over there. No ISOFIX, but okay, let's not complain too much about that. But just decent space, cloth trim, etc., etc. Let's move around quickly now to the back end. And you've got unusual looking tail lights over there. You've of course got the spoiler over the back over here. And something, I suppose I mustn't complain, there is a lever next to the driver's door to open the tailgate, or you've got to use the key. It's one or the other. Pop it open. You'll see what I mean about the high and narrow. You've got quite a high load sill for the boot area. So you've got to, again, if you've got parcels in there, it's a big lift to get them back out again. And well done, you've got a full-size spare wheel under there, even on this little car. So kudos to Mahindra for that. Tiny little cover over there, but that's what counts. And the rear seat can fold, but in a single piece, not a split rear seat. Close it over there. You've got the skid plate effect over here as well, which is again a feature on the car to give you that crossover SUV effect and look. Rear wiper, important factor too. The KUV100 is powered by a little 4-cylinder engine, and it puts out 61 kilowatts and 115 Newton meters of torque. And I've got to be honest, it's the torque that's lacking. It really is. You better be ready and prepared to use that gearbox when you're on the open road and if you hit any kind of incline. That requires rowing of that gearbox. It's no problem, it's not unpleasant, it's an easy, light enough gear shift, but you must be aware and overtaking, plan ahead, because that is where this little car definitely lacks a bit of oomph as far as I'm concerned in that respect. Let's jump inside. On the road, I'd say this is very typical of its type, of its size. It's a little bit boomy inside here, you can hear it. Yeah, you get a bit of tire noise, but you've got to accept this is a small car. And based on that factor, I'm not going to complain about it. Barring going uphill, it's got enough power for me. It's smooth, it's light, it's easy to drive. Seating position, because you've at least got height adjustment on the driver's seat, you can get yourself comfortable. And I mentioned just now the way this gear lever falls to hand. It really actually, I'm amazed this gear lever position is not a more common usage in motoring. It just somehow seems to work very nicely on a manual car. But that's what it is, and it just, as a city, as an urban runabout, it certainly is doing the job, and it's doing the job pretty nicely. decently adequately as far as I'm concerned. And it's a little bit bouncy at times, but depends on road quality as well, I suppose. But you can see, use the gear shift and you can buzz along quite happily and quite merrily. I think this certainly would factor on your list of cars for youngster, for example, for your kid's first car when they go off to varsity, something like that. I think it could very easily come into your buying consideration and looking as especially when you go to the more basic models in the range, and not necessarily look for the couple of extra luxuries that you can get, but just really go basic. You see, on a slight uphill, wind it up in a lower gear, and that's the way you drive it. Jumping in behind the wheel, you'll see the instrumentation is fairly basic, but it's what you want. You want your fuel gauge, you want temperature, speed, and even a rev counter. So there you go. No complaints on that one. I haven't monitored fuel consumption on this test, but it seems to be pretty good, and it's a nice light car, so let's not even go there. But there is something I want to point out to you. There's a button down here that took me a while to find it. Just below that mirror one over there that says ESS. Because this car has got stop-start technology. You know, the stop-start when you're at a robot or something like that. Well, quite honestly, switch it off. Get in the car. Unfortunately, you have to switch it out each time you start the engine, but switch it off. That's all I'm going to say on it. Otherwise, I found it stalls the car. But you do get auto locking on pull-off, which is very, very useful and a nice feature as well. And you've got a little bit of controls on your steering wheel as well over there. Now, because it's the Dare edition, it comes with this unit over here, the radio infotainment unit, which includes a screen over here that is very unusual because, for example, when you start up the engine, it literally comes out. I'll show you in a moment. But something I can't understand on this car is I put the gear lever into reverse and it tells me there should be a rear camera, but I'm not getting any picture. So I'm not quite sure what goes on over there. But anyway, let's just leave that. What is unusual is, look at the positioning of the gear lever over here. 5-speed manual gearbox actually falls very, very nicely to hand, I must say. And I've said clunky, but nice, light, easy to use gear shift. Below it, the very unusual, in today's world, umbrella handbrake, as they call it. Again, just something one has to get used to because it's from so long ago. You've got air conditioning and your controls over there. Basic, simple, easy. You've got quite a funky sort of silver effect on the dash over here, and then almost a patterned effect above. It looks good, it looks interesting. 2 airbags are standard. So you've got all of these features. Another feature I just want to mention to you is you do even have height adjustment on the driver's seat. So it's a useful feature as well. I've shown you the space, I've shown you the comfort. The ride is okay, as I said, barring when you want to go up a hill. Now, the thing about this car, as far as I'm concerned, is you can get into a KUV100 with the same engine and gearbox combination for the base model, 160,000 Rand, I'm rounding off. Then you get the K2 Plus Dare at about just over 170. The one we're in right now is 208,000 Rand. Differences being spec, for example, the screen, the 14-inch mags, and a couple of other little items you get. I'm going to say to you that this is a case that I often find with small cars. Basic is better. Cheaper is better. You are not, sorry folks, you're not buying a luxury car here. You're not buying a top-end model over here. So go for the basic. I would look, if you're looking here, at 170,000 Rand, but at 208. That's obviously your choice, but it's such a big price difference in the range, across the range, for some extra spec, not for bigger engine, not for more airbags, that I've got to say, I'm looking at the Mahindra. We all know the reliability, the toughness of the Mahindra range, so that's not a question in my mind. But I'd go basic, and I'd go lower into the market, as far as I'm concerned. And then you're competing against, of course, Hyundai's Atos, Suzuki, comes in the Celerio or the Espresso, etc., etc. You're looking at all those cars and you become very competitive there. So if you're looking in this category, check out and personally, lower, cheaper, better. For Motor Matters, I'm Eleanor. See you next time.